Subliminal messaging, 2 tragic deaths, and a shocking lawsuit, there's more to Judas Priest than the iconic sound they're known for. Judas Priest, all chugging guitar riffs, thundering drums, and wailing vocals, doesn't sound remotely like the music of Bob Dylan, with its strummed acoustic guitars and inscrutable lyrics delivered in a meandering twang. But the hugely successful metal band is named after a deep cut by the boomer poetry pop hero, a story song with a dark and deadly plot that sounds like it could have come from a metal song. According to American Songwriter, the Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest appears on Dylan's 8th LP, John Wesley Harding, and it tells the tale of Frankie, who gets some money from Judas to party in a den of ill repute and then dies in his friend's arms weeks later. Guitarist K.K. Downing suggested the band follow the lead of Earth, which renamed themselves Black Sabbath, and come up with something similarly sinister. Original bassist Bruno Stappenhill suggested Judas Priest from the Dylan song. But where did Dylan get the name Judas Priest? He didn't make it up. It was used as a TV-friendly curse word alternative in the early days of the medium in the mid-20th century, a censor-skirting exclamation used in lieu of the more controversial taking the Lord's name exclamation of Jesus Christ. Punk rock and heavy metal are very different forms of music, but one may have greatly influenced the other by way of Judas Priest, a heavy metal stalwart in the making, looking to stay current and keep their music fresh. In late 1977, punk hit big in the UK, with the emergence of anarchic, troublemaking, truth-to-power speaking bands like the Sex Pistols and The Clash playing fast and loud, threatening to displace the previously preferred sound of the disenfranchised British heavy metal. Singer Rob Halford told Classic Rock, "Punk caught the ears of the record labels and the music press. There was a very immediate alienation of things from the past." In response, Priest tried to capture the aggressive vibes of punk and incorporate them into the songs they were recording for their album Stained Class. Guitarist Glenn Tipton said, "We've always placed a lot of importance on what's going on because it's what the kids want, so we've always kept our ear to the ground." Mixing metal with punk and some recording ideas from veteran jazz fusion producer Dennis McKay led to what would help define harder rock in the coming decade. Thomas Gabriel Fisher of the metal band Celtic Frost said, "Stained Class completely reinvented metal. It presented a surgical, precise kind of metal, a prototype of thrash metal that I had never heard." Judas Priest's 1978 album Stained Class included a cover of Better By You, Better Than Me, a tune by the English rock group Spooky Tooth. In December 1985, more than 7 years after Judas Priest released the song, 20-year-old James Vance and 18-year-old Raymond Belknap, best friends from Reno, Nevada, spent several hours drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana. They listened to Stained Class throughout, and then each man felt compelled to fire a shotgun at themselves. The act instantly killed Belknap while Vance lived, enduring severe appearance-altering injuries in advance of his death in 3 years' time. The boys' families sued Judas Priest and label CBS Records, seeking $6.2 million. The lawsuit alleged that the band had placed secret, backward messages in Better By You, Better Than Me that convinced Vance and Belknap to take their own lives, such as Let's Be Dead, Try Suicide, and Let's Do It.
The more he listened to it, the crazier he got.
The family's attorneys presented the song forward and backward in the courtroom in an attempt to prove the existence of secret messages. Judas Priest singer Rob Halford took the witness stand, explaining that the phrases the two men heard were simply the sound of him exhaling. At the end of the 1990 trial, the judge cleared Judas Priest of any wrongdoing and found them not liable for the death and near death of the demonstrably troubled young men. Judas Priest used a series of typeface-based band logos on the covers of its first few albums, finally settling on a design they'd use pretty much forever after with its use on the jacket of their 4th studio LP, Stained Class, in 1978. It's simple but eye-catching, Judas Priest rendered in a jagged, angular script. According to the website of band guitarist K.K. Downing, that was the invention of Roszlau Szabo, a graphic designer and art director who worked for Judas Priest's label CBS Records. Inspired by some of the future-exploring lyrics of Stained Class, Szabo created a logo that looked like it came from years yet to come, influenced by science fiction, and wanted to make it look as if it had been electrified. The band so enjoyed the work of Szabo, also a painter and photographer, that they enlisted him to design whole covers. The front of Judas Priest's 1980 album, British Steel, prominently features a hand gripping a razor blade, emblazoned with the band logo. That was Szabo's design, and he was the hand model for the shot too. Born in Poland and rising to the position of Chief Artistic Director at CBS Records, Szajbo's contributions were honored by his home country in 2018 with the Gold Medal for Merit to Culture just before his death at age 85. Rob Halford identifies as a gay man, which was well known throughout the music industry before he publicly disclosed his orientation on MTV News in 1998.
I think that most people know that I've been a gay man all of my life.
Halford was estranged from Judas Priest at the time, and the revelation made waves, particularly in the heavy metal community, which the singer says was once oppressively anti-LGBT. He told the Edmonton Journal in 2019, "I was surrounded by homophobia, which still exists today. There are places I can't go back to because I'll be stoned to death." According to his memoir, Confess, Halford felt he had to keep his sexual preferences secret, and he sought anonymous encounters at truck stops. He told Yahoo Entertainment that he was once arrested for seeking out a liaison at a men's public bathroom as part of an undercover police bust, but he was released because the precinct staff all recognized him. He paid a fine, and the incident never reached the media. Despite Halford not fully disclosing his sexual orientation in his early Judas Priest days, the band's music held clues. He explained that one lyric referenced a New York resort popular with gay men, saying, "The only one that was kind of an overt statement in all of those lyrics to me, personally, was Raw Deal, where I talk about going to Fire Island in New York." And then, that end phrase of the song where I'm singing, "Love knoweth no laws."
Oh, by the way, I'm gay.
Judas Priest released the album Killing Machine in the UK in 1978, renamed Hellbent for Leather for the US, making a title track out of a standout song. The group was still playing gigs in small rooms around the UK at the time, when he got an idea outside of a club one night. Halford told Goldmine, "We pulled up and there were bikers parked outside the venue. I said out of the blue, it would be very cool if we could bring a motorcycle out during Hellbent for Leather." Halford borrowed one of the bikers' rigs, rode it out on stage, and the crowd enjoyed it so much that it became a regular part of Judas Priest's stage show. It hasn't always been easy. In 1990, according to UCR, Halford fell off his Harley-Davidson on stage and knocked himself temporarily unconscious. In 2011, he again took a minor tumble during a show in Brazil. The motorcycle isn't the only heavy metal at a Judas Priest show. While touring in the early 80s, Halford would fire an authentic machine gun. He explained, "I had this idea at the end of Genocide. I'd take the machine gun and fire into the crowd." In 1992, after about 2 decades as the lead singer of Judas Priest, Rob Halford left the band for various personal and creative reasons. But the rest of Judas Priest soldiered on, faced with the difficult task of replacing its most visible and famous member. The man for the job was the closest thing the rest of Judas Priest could find to Rob Halford, a professional Halford impersonator. According to Rolling Stone, singer Tim Ripper Owens, who took his nickname from a Priest song, had fronted a Priest-influenced band called US Metal, a play on British Steel, the name of a Priest album as well as a Priest cover band with which he'd performed. Some fans gave a tape of Owens performing to Priest drummer Scott Travis, who shared it with his bandmates. By 1996, he'd secured an audition with the full group in Wales, which he aced. Owens toured and recorded as the lead singer of Judas Priest until 2003, when Halford asked to return, according to the BBC. By then, Owens' story had inspired the Mark Wahlberg movie Rockstar, and years later, after KK Downing had also left Judas Priest, he teamed up with the guitarist to form a new metal band called KK's Priest.
Hi everyone, KK here, just checking in.
Breaking the Law is probably Judas Priest's best-known song. No other single from the band charted higher in the UK, while in the US, it was quoted and riffed on by cartoon metalheads Beavis and Butthead.
Breaking the law, breaking the law.
And to think, it's a pointed meditation on the crumbling British economy of the early 1980s. In Confess, the autobiography, Halford wrote, "Judas Priest have never been a political band, but this song was, without question, a slice of acute social commentary. Industrial and manufacturing sectors were hurting, with factory closures and widespread job losses around the bend, creating a sense of hopelessness among British youth." Halford said of the song, "Writing the lyrics for Breaking the Law, I tried to put myself in the mind of a jobless young bloke at his wit's end." The rough edges of the song smoothed out to the point where Judas Priest could create and perform a parody of the song on a 2014 episode of The Simpsons. After Homer gets nailed for illegal downloading, he and his family camp out at the Swedish consulate, and authorities try to drive them out by hiring Judas Priest to play Respecting the Law. A Swedish official loves it because he loves all death metal, and days later, Producers of The Simpsons apologized to Judas Priest via an opening sequence chalkboard gag for labeling them a death metal band when they are, in fact, a heavy metal band. Most bands don't last as long as Judas Priest has, more than 50 years across various lineups and incarnations, and they don't rack up as many honors and accolades either. According to the Recording Industry Association of America, Judas Priest has received awards for 12 gold or platinum selling albums, with sales of 500,000 and 1 million in the US respectively. They also took home a Grammy Award, scored 5 more nominations, shaped the direction and sound of heavy metal, and recorded classic rock radio staples like You've Got Another Thing Comin' and Livin' After Midnight. But perhaps the highest honor in rock music is one the band didn't receive until 2022. When the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame unveiled its 2022 class of inductees, Judas Priest made the list. However, they didn't make it in via the usual method of a nominated act that garnered a plurality of votes. Instead, they were included by way of the Musical Excellence category, a designation the Rock Hall uses to automatically and directly induct whoever it deems worthy.
Wow, thank you so much.
It was probably the most effective way for Judas Priest to make it into the hall, which has very few members in terms of heavy metal acts. According to Billboard, Judas Priest became eligible for induction way back in 2000 and only made it as far as the voting ballot in 2018, 2020, and 2022 before the Rock Hall let them in. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline by dialing 988 or by calling 1-800-273-TALK 8255.